Texas football takes down number 6 OSU. Texas women's basketball has released their conference schedule, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are leading the AFC North. All of this and more coming up on a historic episode of College Crossfire.
Yeah, let's do this.
And their men's basketball team needs to stop social distancing themselves from fans.
But now it has been overdone to death. Playing, don't stop believing.
Bye-bye, Bucks. Bye-bye, Raptors.
All right, let's get to it. Welcome into College Crossfire. I'm your host, Jaxie Pidgeon, and it looks like tonight's show is going to be a powerful one. Let's introduce tonight's panel for the first ever all-women show on College Crossfire in the show's 15-plus years on being in the airwaves. On first base, we have returning champion Celeste Ramirez. How are you?
I am good. I'm so thrilled to be a part of this girls' night.
Glad to hear it. And on second base, we have Emme Basnett. How are you?
I am so excited to finally be on College Crossfire, especially when it is with all the women. Girl power, am I right?
Girl power is right. And on third base, we have another rookie, Olivia Guzman. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really excited to be here. It's a big day for College Crossfire and the nation, so we're making history today.
Cheers to that, ladies. Before we get started, we're going to award some of our panelists some extra points. So first up, Emme, you're going to start off with an extra point because of your stellar background. Shout out girl power in the back there. And Olivia, you're going to get an extra point because of your homemade hype video that was shared on our social media accounts today. All right, ladies, let's get to it. This past Saturday, Texas football headed to Stillwater, Oklahoma to take on the 6th-ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys. OSU went into this game as the only remaining undefeated team in the Big 12, while Texas needed to win this matchup if they wanted any last hopes of having a shot at the conference title. This game was full of momentum swings, with each taking turns having the lead. With just over a minute left in the game, the Cowboys tied the game at 34 with a 34-yard field goal from Alex Hale to go into overtime. Finally, in their third overtime game of the season, Ellinger got Texas on the board, and Joseph Osai sealed the deal, sacking OSU quarterback Spencer Sanders, leading the Longhorns to a 41-34 victory over the Cowboys. So, do you think Texas was just able to pull this off, or did the Pokes choke? So let's start us off.
In my opinion, Texas was able to pull off this win. They did excellent defensively. Oklahoma State had a lot of turnovers thanks to Texas defense. Joseph Osai played a huge role in Texas' defensive success with 6 tackles for loss, 12 tackles, and 3 sacks. Texas overcame a lot of doubters, including myself, and I feel like this win had more to do with Texas pulling it off than it did with just Cowboys choking.
Sure. Texas, like you mentioned, Joseph Osai definitely played a role for Texas in this game. Emme, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Celeste on that one. I do think they were able to pull this off. I don't think the Pokes choked. I think they actually put up a really good game. Just in the end, it wasn't good enough. I think Texas, like Celeste was saying, played really good defense the whole time. And at first, I thought we may have lost the game because Ellinger's passing game was so weak we couldn't get a pass rush. But Joseph Osai, like you guys were saying, is an absolute beast. He got Defensive Player of the Week, which I think was well deserved. Even though Ellinger was not as accurate, we were able to make up for it, especially in the second half. And unfortunately, I think Texas kind of plays to the scale of the teams that they play against. So I think we were able to kind of match Oklahoma State in this one. And, I think if we clamped down on their run game and held Chuba Hubbard, and I think that's what ultimately led to the Texas winning and not a choke from Oklahoma State.
Sure. And Emmy's got Texas too. Olivia, what do you think?
I also have Texas. I was telling people I was watching with, I said, if you aren't an OSU fan, if you're not a Texas fan, this is quite possibly one of the most entertaining games of the weekend. Texas played their best game of the season. I think the defense continues to get better every single week. We've all talked about Joseph Osai, but Joseph Osai is one out of the 11 guys on the field, and all of them played their best game. And I think if the defense continues to do that, they're just showing what a great powerhouse they are. But OSU did put up a really, really good fight. So the Pokes didn't choke at all. I think the defense really won this game for us.
Sure. And all those were great points. Like y'all said, I mean, OSU, they weren't terrible in this game, but Texas really showed out for this game. And like you said, that competitive aspect of it, just to play up to their competition, whereas some teams, they just kind of tend to play down. But I mean, OSU did have 4 turnovers in this game, and that was part of 21 of Texas's points. So, I mean, that definitely was not great for them. But again, that was because of Texas's defense stepping up. So that was awesome. And all of y'all will start out with 3 points on that one, since you're all kind of on the same page. We'll see what they have to hold for the future. All right. So next up, the Longhorns have just 4 games left of the regular season play. Saturday's victory against OSU gives them a chance to redeem themselves and have a shot at the conference title. With no undefeated teams remaining in the Big 12, the Longhorns still have a chance to hang in at the top. Their remaining games will be against West Virginia, Kansas, Iowa State, and Kansas State. The experts are saying that Texas has over a 70% chance of winning these games, with their easiest matchup being against the Jayhawks in Lawrence, Kansas. With their victory over the Cowboys, did Texas prove they can still win the Big 12 title? Emme, what do you think?
I think they did, but it's also really tough for me to say that because I don't want to end up eating my words later. But I mean, part of them can really control this if they clinch all the next games, if they really focus and limit mistakes. But also, they don't really control their own destiny on the flip side, because it depends on who else continues to win or lose in the rest of the Big 12. I mean, what if there's even a 3-way tie for the Big 12 championship? I don't even know. 3 or 4-way tie. It could be crazy. I think that would be really fun to watch, but we just have to win every game. We need to continue to see how this team fares, but I am hopeful, and I have to say that they still have a shot. And if they continue to play like they did last week, which who knows at this point, I think they could do it. I really do. I wouldn't give up hope yet, but once again, I hope I don't end up eating my words on that one.
Emme is not yet giving up hope. She's hanging on to that hope. Olivia, what do you think?
I also am not giving up hope. I think that the defense has gotten better every single week, and I think they'll continue to get better. The defense on their side, I also don't want to eat my words, but I think the defense proves that they have what it takes to be Big 12 contenders, like the Big 12 championship contenders. Sam Ehlinger and the offense have not played a full game, though, where they're on their A game. So I think that's going to be the real kicker to see if the Longhorns can pull out a win, is if they can play one full game where they're on their game for 4 quarters. But like Emme said, the Longhorns are not controlling their own destiny to get there. I think they have I might eat my words saying this, but I do believe that the Longhorns will have an easier shot winning the Big 12 championship than getting to the Big 12 championship.
That's an interesting point there. Celeste, what do you think?
I think that Texas came into this season with Big 12 hopes, even national championship hopes, but they kicked themselves in the face with their back-to-back losses. I think their win against the undefeated Oklahoma State Cowboys really changed the tone for things. And they've shown once again that they have the potential to reach the Big 12 championship, but it's definitely, and they've proven that they can, but it's still a huge if they actually will.
Sure. They, definitely beating that last undefeated team in the Big 12 was important for them. As I said, that was their last hope of, having a shot at making it. So to Olivia's point, I really think that was a great point about the defensive perspective, because, that had been a side of Texas's game that they were lacking on. And Joseph Osai obviously was a standout, but you did also mention previously that it's not only him. Obviously he did carry that, that team to victory, but I think that this Texas defense was crucial to that win. So Olivia 3, Celeste 2, Emme 1. Next up this Saturday, the Longhorns will be back at home for their 11 a.m. matchup against the West Virginia Mountaineers. Texas and West Virginia both sit at 4-2 on the season, and they also both are coming off victories, with the Mountaineers beating Kansas State and Texas taking down OSU. The winner of this matchup will truly have the highest chance to have a shot at the conference title. With Texas having the top scoring offense and West Virginia having the top total defense in the conference, this is sure to be an interesting game. What is the key matchup you see in Saturday's game? Olivia, start us off.
I think the biggest key matchup is going to be the West Virginia defensive line versus the Texas run game, because they have a very strong line. So it's going to be a battle of the box. And if there's a 3-man rotation, and if all 3 of them have a great game, that's going to be the matchup that you have to look at between Texas and the line.
Sure, that West Virginia defense, like I said, is definitely a strong one. Strongest in the conference right now, I guess. Celeste, what do you think?
I also agree the biggest matchup is going to be, to me, between Texas offense and West Virginia's defense. Their defense, or West Virginia's defense, I should specify, has the highest total defense rating in the Big 12 currently. And last game, a lot of us saw that Texas really struggled with a strong defense against Oklahoma State. So it'll be interesting to see if history repeats itself or if offense can step up to the plate this game to handle West Virginia's defense.
Sure, kind of those, reverse roles, I guess we'd say, with which side's struggling less for the Longhorns. Emme, what do you think?
I was going to say what both of them were saying about defense and offense, but now I'm going to switch up my answer a little bit. Let's do notable alumni. West Virginia's most notable alumni is Steve Harvey, and ours is, of course, Matthew McConaughey, I think by popular demand. So them in the matchup, I think Matthew McConaughey would take it. I think he would outsmart Steve Harvey with how confusing his vocal patterns are and how confusing of a man that he is. So I think Matthew McConaughey would clinch that win for us. Our Minister of Culture, it's up to him. So let's see how they would match up. I think I'm going Matthew McConaughey.
I love the creativity. Honestly, I didn't specify if it had to be a player. So key matchup, honestly, let the alums, star players, I guess. We'll have them take each other on. So Emme, you're going to get 3, Celeste 2, Olivia 1. And when we come back, the panel will discuss Texas women's basketball and collegiate and professional football. You won't want to miss it.
Men's basketball looks for a key win against Iowa State. Women's basketball is tested against the number 2 team in the nation.
The Longhorns had a dominant pitching performance in the latter half of the game, led by Pete Hansen.
I get to say some of the most exciting words in football. The Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock and picking for...
Texas started the third with the lead and continued to gain momentum on defense.
Hello and welcome into the first social distancing college press box ever.
You're watching a live sports presentation of Texas Student Television.
It's a lovely evening in Austin. Texas Longhorns, Texas A&M Aggies.
This is a rivalry game, high intensity, high scoring.
Puck drop, we're off.
Both of these teams are very fast.
Big collision on the wall there. Now a little advantage for Texas. Shot in the middle.
Welcome back to College Crossfire. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. Leading the show, we have Emme and Olivia tied at 8 points, and right behind them, we have Celeste with 7 points. Before we get back to it, I mentioned this being the first all-women show of College Crossfire. This applies behind the scenes too, with our very own Samantha Pearl directing the show behind the scenes. Shout out Samantha! All right, let's jump right back in. Last Monday, the Big 12 Conference released its Women's Basketball League schedule for the 2020-21 season. Each team in the conference will play 2 league games prior to the holiday break, and all conference games will be in a double round-robin format. Whether or not fans will be allowed is still in question. For the Texas women's basketball team, they begin their season against the SMU Mustangs at home on November 25th, and will also finish at home against Baylor on March 1st. What are your thoughts on the Texas women's basketball schedule for this season? So let's start us off.
So the Texas women's basketball's new coach, Vic Schaefer, came in saying that he came to Texas not to be good, but to be great. I think that is definitely possible in the near future. He has a lot of returners coming with this group. They do, however, have some tough matchups with Baylor and Iowa. I believe that this group has a potential to make the NCAA tournament, but it just depends on how consistent they are this season.
Sure. And you mentioned that new coaching staff, and it'll be interesting to see what he's done with this team as well. And those are some unique matchups coming up right off the bat and at the end as well. Emme, what do you think?
I'm just really excited, like you guys were saying, to see how Vic Schaefer impacts this team. I can tell he's passionate. And this team was picked in the preseason to finish second in conference play. Also, coming in at number 1 to clinch this conference was Baylor. So obviously that will present a challenge for the Horns. I think that's always a game that's exciting to watch. But there are a couple worrisome players that are out. Lauren Ebo is out, which is a little bit worrisome, especially for Vic Schaefer. He was talking about that, how she should be back soon, but that is a point of weakness with her absent. He also said Deanna, who is coming up, seems very promising. He's really exciting. He's really excited about this team. I'm also like looking at this schedule and just encouraged by 7 straight home games. I think that, whether or not players are allowed, students are allowed to watch live, I think there's sort of a comfort that comes with playing at home. And I just want to end with, like, Schaefer really just emphasized that in order for this team to succeed, they have to stay healthy. So I'm just hoping that all the players are able to stay healthy and that coronavirus won't affect the team in any way that is too detrimental.
Sure. Lots of home games to start it off. Olivia, what do you think?
I'm just really excited to see the battle between Texas and Texas A&M. As someone who grew up bleeding burnt orange and hating maroon, this always excites me to see. And if the Longhorns can't get it in football, they can get it in basketball. So that's my favorite matchup that I'm seeing on the line, is just A&M versus UT. Same old rivalry.
Definitely will be an interesting game. I know, like you said, something we don't see very often. I know they've been waiting for it to happen with football for a while, but that will definitely be an interesting one on their schedule. But I'm going to have to give Emme the points on this one, just the way that you mentioned. I know with COVID, we're not sure what's going to happen with the fans aspect, but just playing on your home turf always gives that advantage, and it'll be interesting to have that many back-to-back to start off. So, Emme, you are going to get the points on that one. Next up, ladies, at this point in the NFL season, the Pittsburgh Steelers are leading the AFC North at an undefeated 7-0. As the only undefeated NFL team remaining this season, the Steelers have also tied their best winning streak in franchise history, with the last time they went 7-0 being in 1978. With their next matchup being against the Dallas Cowboys, who are 2-6 on the season and coming into this game with a 3-game losing streak, the Steelers have a high probability of moving to 8-0 on the season, which would set a new franchise best record. So, do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers are contenders or pretenders? Emme, start us off.
I'm excited for this question. I think it's super controversial. I think a lot of different analysts have been talking about it. Personally, I think they're contenders. Their defense is showing up week after week. I think that's what resulted in how they're going undefeated so far. Ben Roethlisberger makes very few mistakes. Excluding the game against the Ravens. He had a ton of mistakes in the first half, but that's very rare for him. He's a very consistent player. And it's the only undefeated team in the NFL, like you were saying. That's super exciting. That warrants attention and warrants praise for this team. Like I said before, look at the way that they're defending. They're able to neutralize and shut down opposing teams' pass rushes. It's super exciting to watch. You cannot deny that Juju, Claypool, James Conner, all really consistent players. Are they the best in the NFL? That wasn't the question, but that has been raised. I think Kansas City would present for them a challenge, but we cannot forget that no matter what, they're undefeated. So I'm going to stand by that and say they are contenders.
Sure. Emme points out, some great players on that roster too, but, Emme says contenders. Olivia, what do you think?
I also think contenders. They look really, really good. Their defense runs so deep. Of course, you have the stars as in Watt, in Hayward, in Hayden, but there's so much more players than just that. They have a stacked roster. Ben Roethlisberger, after coming back from his elbow surgery, he looks better than ever before. And you can't forget Big Ben. He's so solid in everything that he does. And this team, I don't want to say they're a team of destiny, but this is the best the Steelers have looked in a long, long time.
Sure. And like you said about Roethlisberger, I think he's pretty underrated, honestly. Like, he's an older fella, but he's underrated. He's definitely still got his arm. Celeste, what do you think?
I agree with the ladies, of course. I think that the Steelers are contenders. They really proved themselves this past weekend, beating the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm going to just add one thing. Ben, yes, of course, the defense is great, but also the coaching is really great. And it's a combination of those three things that make them really solid contenders this season.
Sure. And Celeste, I like your point about the coaching too, because, while it is the players that execute it, it is still, on the staff to make those decisions on how they're going to execute. So, Celeste, you're going to get the points on this one. I do think that this is, an exciting Steelers season. I don't think it's pretend. Yes, the, games that they have left will probably not be as exciting just because it'll be, especially against Cowboys, probably a little bit of a blowout. But great season for the Steelers. Celeste, you're going to get the points on this one. Next up, for the Week 9 AP Top 25, Clemson remains first, being 7-0. Alabama is second at 6-0. Ohio State is third at 2-0, and Notre Dame is fourth at 6-0. Oklahoma State dropped from 6th to 14th after their loss to Texas, but there are still plenty of solid squads that have a chance at making the college football playoff. Cincinnati, BYU, and Wisconsin are all undefeated still as well and are all within the top 10. With some teams having played more games than others due to COVID-19, it is hard to see the level of talent that some of these teams have to offer. But luckily, those teams were not penalized and can still compete in the playoffs. That being said, what is the most impressive non-top 4 team in college football this season? Olivia?
I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball in here, and I'm going to say SMU. Shane Buechele and the I'm forgetting their mascot, but SMU, they're looking really good. They're breaking lots of school records, and for them being not a Power 5 conference and ranked number 18, that is something that I was looking through the rankings and just really surprised me, and they've really stepped it up. So they're my most impressive. Do I think they're going to make it to the college playoffs? No, but I think that of all the teams right now, they are the ones that if you look at the rankings, I was least expecting to see there and how high they are on their rankings.
Yeah, Buechele has definitely had a better opportunity to make his mark there than he did here at UT. But, that'll be an interesting way to see how they play out the rest of the season. And their mascot, by the way, is the Mustangs. Pony up.
I knew it was some worse, but I was like, I don't want to get it wrong. That's embarrassing.
So, Les, what do you think?
I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bearcats. They're undefeated, 5-0 record. They've beat each of their opponents by an average of 27.6 points. And this season, the Bearcats offense has scored back-to-back 40-point games. They're balanced by a great defense. I find them really impressive. Again, they probably won't really gain the attention of the college football playoff god people, but I still think that they're doing really good.
Yeah, definitely, showing up where they haven't really seen before, Cincinnati making their way. What do you think?
Yeah, Cincinnati is amazing. But I also want to highlight number 9 BYU. I think that'll get our TSTV alumni Steve Helwick pretty excited. But Zach Wilson is undeniably super talented. Their quarterback breaking records for attempts without interceptions. He's also a Heisman candidate with a 78% completion rate. And I think Zach Wilson could be a sleeper in the NFL draft. They're already talking about it. We'll see how they fare against Boise State. Will they get recognition from the College Football Playoff Committee? We know how that committee works. They failed to recognize UCF last season, which I wouldn't be surprised if they did that to BYU or Cincinnati. We can go on another rant about how they should expand it to 8 teams instead of 4. But I'm just going to leave it with, BYU is really impressive, and I can't wait to continue to see them play this season.
Yeah, those are all, interesting takes because obviously it's not contenders for the playoffs, potentially. We'll see. But Emme, you're going to get the points on this one. I think BYU, again, all these teams have stepped up from before, but BYU is definitely making their mark in this college football season. And, we'll see where it ends up. But Emme, you're going to get the points. And coming up next, it's rapid fire here on College Crossfire. You won't want to miss it.
Good pocket protection. Look at that. It's a Jeep. Gotta keep studying Astros film.
Daniel, what are you doing here so early?
I slept great.
Welcome back to College Crossfire. It's time for rapid fire. In this round, points are worth double, and that means it's anybody's game. Before we jump back in, let's take a look at the scoreboard. In first place, we have Emme with 10 points, and right behind them in a tie, we have Celeste and Olivia with 8 points. Let's get to it. In early September, Steve Nash was named head coach of the Brooklyn Nets as the 23rd head coach in the franchise's NBA history. This past Saturday, the Nets also announced the hiring of assistant coaches Mike D'Antoni and Ime Udoka, as well as Amari Stoudemire as a player development assistant. Nash has built a strong staff for this team. His hiring of Mike D'Antoni was a special one, as Nash played for him with the Phoenix Suns from 2004 to 2008, and then again on the Los Angeles Lakers from 2012 to 2014. He also was teammates with Stoudemire in the late 2000s. So, if you were head coach of your favorite team, who would you choose as your assistant coach? Anyone can jump in.
Okay, I'll go. If I was head coach of my favorite team, which happens to be the San Antonio Spurs, I would pick the head coach as Manu Ginobili because I feel like he has a great understanding of the game, obviously, and the culture so well. He is just an amazing person. I could go on and on, but I will keep it short. It would be Manu Ginobili.
Ginobili, he knows the San Antonio area. He knows the team like the back of his hand. That's a great point for your San Antonio Spurs. Who else?
I'll go. If I was, Olivia. Women, I'm so sorry. I would choose Sean McVay. I think he's just a really interesting human, but he's also super talented and obviously has shown that in the way his team performed the Los Angeles Rams last time. And it would be a little awkward because my favorite team is the San Francisco 49ers. So that's a whole Los Angeles, San Francisco kind of interesting matchup there. But I would love to choose Sean McVay. I think he'd be really fun.
Yeah, Sean McVay would definitely be a fun one. I loved seeing his little house show off during the draft. That was funny. Olivia, what do you think?
I was just trying to think of the smartest football player I know. And, well, not personally. I don't know Peyton Manning personally. But I would pick Peyton Manning as my assistant coach. Unfortunately, of the Houston Texans, which it just pains me to say they're my favorite team. But born and bred, absolutely love them. I think me and Peyton Manning together could really turn some things around in Houston. Peyton Manning would be the assistant coach, but really the head coach because he is so much more knowledgeable. He's like a football computer. So Peyton Manning would be my assistant coach.
Yeah, Manning's a good pick too. I mean, in terms of being smart with football. We don't know about the other half. Who knows? But Celeste, you're going to get the points on this one. I like keeping it true to the community, And like for Nash's case, he, brought people to him, but they were all still part of the same team. So Celeste, you're going to get the points on that one. And next up, we're going to have some trickery. You truthfully cannot get through a Halloween game without some tricks being played. In Saturday's football matchup against OSU, the Cowboys attempted to distract Texas's Cameron Dicker in his field goal attempt. By using yellow lines on their video board directly behind the field goal post, the Cowboys thought their trickery would work. Late in the second quarter, Dicker went out for the 40-yard field goal attempt. Who would have thought that the fans screaming would be less of a distraction than the scoreboard? Joke's on OSU because Dicker still made it, barely. So how would you distract a team's field goal attempt? Anyone can jump in.
Okay. Okay, I hope this is appropriate for this audience. Remember that girl who lifted up her shirt at the baseball game? That's how I would distract a team of boys at a football game. I feel like that's a good way to do it. That's it.
Yes, it's not classy, but could work. Who else?
I'm really ashamed to say, but mine was very similar. The thought process of just how to distract. But I think if you send someone onto the field, just send a streaker, just doesn't matter what type of person, you send someone running onto the field that's clearly not supposed to be there and just kind of running around wherever they're lined up to kick the field goal. I definitely think that is going to distract everyone in the stadium, but definitely the team.
All right, lots of nudity. Let's see what Emme has to offer.
Yeah, I say release Bevo and just see what happens. I mean, we saw what happened with Uga. So if he can just replicate that in some way, I think it would distract pretty much anyone. And Bevo's just a fan favorite. So anyone would watch him trot away over watching Cameron Dicker miss. I don't know. I feel like Bevo is just iconic. So he would do a really good job if he wasn't like tranked up. But anyway, I think, yeah, just release him, see what happens.
Chef's kiss. Emme, that was wonderful. Bevo is also the love of my life, but you're going to get your points on this one. I think that if you release Bevo, all bets are off for that field goal. Not a chance it's going in. Maybe, yeah. I mean, Dicker's case, maybe, but for anyone else, no. All right, guys, for the finals question of the night, this past Friday, John Lester tweeted saying, regardless of what's next, I want to thank the fans for the past 6 years. So this weekend, I'm buying y'all my favorite beer. Fans could make a reservation at one of 4 bars to get their first Miller Lite for free on #JohnsTab. The left-handed pitcher has had 6 seasons with the Cubs, as well as a World Series title with the team. Whether or not the free agent will remain in Chicago is still TBD, but what we do know is that he gave away more than $31,000 in free beer to his fans. With all this being said, what do you think is the best way to thank the city after being with the team for many years? Anyone can jump in.
I'll go. Sorry. Okay, I personally would love if my favorite team just gave me a bunch of money. So if everyone just gave me like $1,000, say, that would be a really nice way to thank me for being a fan of you, because you're filthy rich and I'm poor. That's it.
All right, she's got to get the free money out, the handouts. Instead of beer, she wants the cash, please.
Maybe trying to think of like what I would want my team to do, and I mean that guy got it right by doing a tab. That really is how you do it. But and Celeste with the money, absolutely everyone would want cash, but maybe what if they like opened up their house and just like had like a party at their house, like not just one, but like multiple times. So just people could come in, talk to them, say hi, just like was very personal with them. I think if JJ Watt did that in Houston, that would be something that I would absolutely love.
A personalized meet and greet at the home of the player could be really interesting. Emme, what do you think?
I say autograph a bunch of things and then give it out and hide it around the city. A lot of celebrities do that with like press releases and whatever, and just like sign a bunch of items that you have and do a little scavenger hunt around the city and post it on social media. And then anyone following you can like go and find it. And it's like really fun, interactive, and you get a cool piece of merch out of it with an awesome signature. So yeah, sure. I don't know if that would work, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it would make it really easy to get that autograph, maybe lose its value a little bit.
Right, maybe a little bit.
I'm going to give the points to Olivia on this one. I think it'd be really interesting if it was that personal where you could just sign up for your little slot to go meet whoever it was.
Time slot at the house, sign the Google Doc.
Free tab at the house. But even though Olivia got the points, Emme is still getting the win. So congratulations.
Whoa.
Her first historic win and her first time on the show. And though that being said, it's time for FaceTime. Emme, take it away.
Yeah, so I'm just ranting. Okay, so I'm just going to rant about the lack of female representation in the NFL. Since we're having a women's show, there should be more female coaches. There should be more female offensive coordinators. I think the 49ers are the first team to do it. Let's continue to get women in there. And I think if women enter that space, it could just really, women can do football. It's not just limited to men. And I think it would really diversify the NFL, make it applicable to both men and women, open up their demographics. It would be incredible. And I think the 49ers have definitely paved the way, but I would love it if more teams hopped on that wave and just included women in their coaching staff. Let's see it. I would love to. I mean, goodness gracious, it's literally 2020. We need to get it together. And I think we should start with women because women add such a well-rounded perspective. But yes, that's all I have. I don't really know how long I'm supposed to rant for, but rant concluded.
Girl power. I love to hear it. And cheers to our historic episode. Thank you guys for watching history on tonight's episode of College Crossfire. Don't forget to follow us on social media at TSTV Sports on Twitter and Instagram. Lastly, be sure to wake up with the Want to Know Sports Show Friday mornings at 10 a.m. From all of the women panelists in our virtual studio and our virtual master control, I'm Jaxie Pidgeon. Have a wonderful evening.